Good morning everyone. Basa na ng Bible guys. 1 Samuel chapter 4, 5, and 6 and Luke chapter 9 verse 1 to 17. Dito muna tayo sa 1 Samuel guys. War with the Philistines. The Philistines captured the ark. Now Israelites went out to fight against the Philistines. The Israelites camped at Ebenezer and the Philistines at Aphek. The Philistines deployed their forces to meet Israel. And as the battle spread, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. Ang dami. When the soldiers returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord bring defeat upon us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that it may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies." So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord Almighty, who is enthroned between the cherubim, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the Lord's covenant came into the camp of Israel, raised such a great shout that the ground shook. Hearing the uproar, the Philistines asked, "What's all this shouting in the Hebrews' camp?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were afraid. "A God has come into the camp," they said. "We're in trouble. Nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? They are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the desert. Be strong, Philistines, be men, or you will be subject to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated, and every man fled to his tent. The slaughter was very great. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. Hala. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Oh. Death of Eli. The same day, a Benjamite ran from the battle line and went to Shiloh, his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he arrived, there was Eli sitting on his chair by the side of the road, watching because his heart for the ark of God. When the man entered the town and told what had happened, the whole town sent up a cry. Eli heard the outcry and asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" The man hurried over to Eli, who was 98 years old and whose eyes were so that could not see. He told Eli, "I have just come from the battle line. I fled from it this very day." Eli asked, "What happened, my son?" The man who brought the news replied, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and the army has suffered heavy losses. Also your two sons Hophni and Phinehas are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off his chair by the side of the gate. His neck was broken and he died, for he was an old man and heavy. Oh, natumba pala siya. He had led Israel 40 years. Si Eli, guys. He had led Israel 40 years. His daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and near the time of delivery. When she heard the news that the ark of God had been captured and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she went into labor and gave birth. Napaanak ng napaanak yung anak ni, yung asawa ni Pinihas, but was overcome by her labor pains. As she was dying, the woman attending her said, "Don't despair, you have given birth to a son." But she did not respond or pay any attention. She named the boy I Ichabod, 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 saying the glory has departed from Israel because of the capture of the ark of God and the deaths of her father-in-law and her husband. She said, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured." The ark in Ashdod and Ekron. Sa chapter 5 na tayo. After the Philistines had captured the ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then they carried the ark into Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place. But the following morning when they rose, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. His head and hands had been broken off and were lying on the threshold. Only his body remained. That is why to this day neither the priest of Dagon nor any others who enter Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. The Lord's hand was heavy upon the people of Ashdod and its vicinity. He brought devastation upon them and afflicted them with tumors. When the men of Ashdod saw what was happening, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not stay here with us, because his hand is heavy upon us and upon Dagon our God." So they called together all the rulers of the Philistines and asked them, "What shall we do to the ark? What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel?" They answered, "Have the ark of the God of Israel moved to Gath." So they moved the ark of the God of Israel. Sa verse 9, but after they had moved it, the Lord's hand was against the city, throwing it into great panic. He afflicted the people of the city, both young and old, with an outbreak of tumors. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. As the ark of God was entering Ekron, the people of Ekron cried out, "They have brought the ark of the God of Israel around to us to kill us and our people." So they called together all the rulers of Philistines and said, "Send the ark of the God of Israel away, let it go back to its own place, or it will kill us and our people, for death has filled the city with panic." God's hand was very heavy upon it. Those who did not die were afflicted with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven. Ina muna tayo bago mag chapter 6. The ark returned to Israel. When the ark of the Lord had been in Philistine territory 7 months, the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we should send it back to its place." They answered, if you return the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it away empty, but by all means send guilt offering to him. Then you will be held, and you will know why his hand has not been lifted from you." The Philistines asked, "What guilt offering should we send to him?" They replied, 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats according to the number of the Philistines' rollers, because the same plague has struck both you and your rollers. Make models of the tumors and of the rats that are destroying the country, and pay honor to Israel's God. Perhaps he will lift his hand from you and your gods and your land. So, ibig sabihin, iba-iba talaga ang God noong araw. Iba ang God ng Israel, iba ang God ng Philistines. Why do you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh did? When he treated, when he treated them harshly, they did not send the Israelites out so they could go on their way. Now, mm, now then get a new cart ready with 2 cows that have calved and have never been yoked. Hitch the cows to the cart, but take their calves away and pen them up. Take the ark of the Lord and put it on the cart, and in a chest beside it put the gold objects you are sending back to him as a guilt offering. Send it on its way, but keep watching it. If it goes up to its own territory toward Beth Shemesh, mahatching ako. Ulit-ulit natin. Sa verse 7 ulit tayo. Now then get a new cart ready with 2 cows that have calved and have never been yoked. Hitch the cows to the cart, but take their calves away and wind them up. Take the ark of the Lord and put it on the cart, and in a chest beside it put the gold objects you are sending back to him as a guilt offering. Send it on its way, but keep watching. But keep watching it. If it goes up to its own territory toward which you miss, then the Lord has brought this great disaster on us. But if it does not, then we will know that it was not his hand that struck us, and that it happened to us by chance. So they did. So they did this. They took 2 such cows and hitched them to the cart and pinned up their calves. They placed the ark of the Lord on the cart, and along with it the chest containing the gold rods and the models of the tumors. Then the cows went straight up toward Beth-Shemesh, keeping on the road and lowing all the way. Then they did not turn to the right or to the left. The rollers of the Philistines followed them as far as the border of Beth-Shemesh. Now the people of Beth-Shemesh were harvesting their wheat in the valley, and when they looked up and saw the ark, they rejoiced at the sight. The cart came to the fold of Joshua of Beth-Shemesh, and there it stopped beside a large rock. The people chopped up the wood of the cart and sacrificed the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord. The Levites took down the ark of the Lord together with the chest containing the gold objects and placed them on the large rock. On that day, people of Beth-Shemesh offered burnt offering and made sacrifices to the Lord. The 5 rulers of the Philistines saw all this, they and then returned the same day to Ekron. Chapter verse 17. These are the gold summers the Philistines sent as gold offering to the Lord. One is of Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. So 1, 2, 3, 5. And the number of the gold rods was according to the number of Philistine towns belonging to the 5 rulers. The 45 the fortified towns with their country villages, the large rock on which they set the ark of the Lord is a witness to this day in the fold of Joshua of Beth-Shemesh. But God struck down some of the men of Bethshemesh, putting 70 of them to death because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. The people mourned because of the heavy blow the Lord had dealt them. And the men of Bethshemesh asked, "Who can stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? To whom will the ark go up from here?" Then they sent messengers to the people of Kiriath Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to your place." So yun na. Ang karugtong sa chapter 7 na siya, so bukas na ulit natin siya basahin. Lipat na tayo sa Luke chapter 9 verse 1 to 17. Pahinga muna. 9 to 17, 1 to 17. Jesus sends out the 12 disciples. When Jesus had called the 12 disciples, together, ulit guys, chapter 9. Dito, ang title kasi niya is, Jesus sends out the 12 disciples. So, dito na tayo sa 9, chapter 9, verse 1. O, nasa Matthew na rin siya. Chapter 10, verse 1. 1 to 15. Ayan mo na. Ulit-ulit ng basa to sa, sa Luke. When Jesus had called the 12 together, He gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. And He sent them out to preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. So, nung araw, pati mga disciples nakakapagpagaling ng mga may sakit. Doktor na rin sila. He told them, "Take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra tunic. Whatever house you enter, stay there until you leave the town. If people do not welcome you, shake the dust off your feet when you leave their town as a testimony against them." So they set out and went from village to village, preaching the gospel and healing people everywhere. Herod kills John the Baptist. Ito yung yung nilagay yung ulo sa sa plate. Grabe, no? Napaka-brutal nila noong araw. Talagang pupugutan ka ng ulo. Tapos kakatakot kasi syempre ilalagay siya sa tapos makikita ng people. Napaka-harsh. Herod kills John the Baptist. Now Herod the Tetrarch. Sa verse 7, guys. Now Herod the Tetrarch heard about all that was going on, and he was perplexed, because some were saying that John had been raised from the dead, others that Elijah had appeared, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago had come back to life. But Herod said, I beheaded John, who then is this I hear such things about?" And he tried to see him. Pinutulan na nga eh. Pinugutan na nga ng ulo eh. I beheaded John, who then is this I hear such things about? And he tried to see him. Jesus feeds 5,000. When the apostles returned, they reported to Jesus what they had done. Then When the apostles returned, they reported to Jesus what they had done. Then he took them with him, and they withdrew by themselves to a town called Bethsaida. But the crowds learned about it and followed him. He welcomed them and spoke to them about the kingdom of God and healed those who needed healing. Late in the afternoon, the 12 came to him and said, "Send the crowd away so they can go to the surrounding villages and countryside and find food and lodging because we are in a remote place here." He replied, "You give them something to eat." They answered, "We have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish unless we go and buy food for all this crowd." About 5,000 men were there. So, mga lalaki pa lang 5,000 na. Ibig sabihin more than 5,000 yun. About 5,000 men were there. But he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down in groups and about 50 each." The disciples did so, and everybody sat down. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke them. Then he gave them to the disciples to set before the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 full basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. So, hanggang 17 lang tayo. Pero mo, no, paano kaya yun puputol-putulin yung yung isang isda sa, dalawang isda sa, sa 5,000. Miracles works. Ganun talaga. Pagka kasi sharing na yan eh. Siyempre lahat kayo may baon na. Kaya yung sharing na magkakasya talaga. Yung mga baon nyo. Diba? Bye everyone. God bless.